everyone here first to begin. You'll realize I didn't walk with my laptop again. I have my phone. And from our last class, I know we was discussing how do we as Christians interact with each other. So within the churches of Christ, within most of the Christian other the denominations that we see around Christianity on a whole, there's an interaction that happens here as a family. There's supposed to be an interaction that happens here as a family. But sometimes you find yourself more acquainted with people you work with or friends outside than your Christian brothers and sisters. And you find yourself sometimes now sharing yourself more than how much you share with your brothers and sisters. So the question is why? Why does this happen? Why do we tend to sometimes go beyond who we know here and find advice, find fellowship outside? And if anybody wants to answer, and I take it answers at this point. Anybody could suggest why. Why do we do that? So the question is, you have friends in the world, you have co-workers, you have people within the church. Most of the times we find ourselves being able to share ourselves better with somebody outside than with those in the church. Why is that? Good point, yeah. Beautiful.
I don't want all my friends, even though they're talking about national churches, to ask them to pray, and they always do. And that's the reason why people not plenty people in churches, because people in the world is always there. Though they might be sick, they are always there.
The point, and I think she's correct in terms of it boils down to commitment and relationship. And yeah.
I was not going to
bring that point two. I'm not going to bring that point two. We spend the majority of the time when I look out for me on work, how much time, but normally most work is 8 to 4. Sometimes I go 8 to 5 to 7. So.
When you work out those numbers, and I have been working in my current place 20 years now. Oh, 20, 22 years, 23 years, somewhere around so. Right. Yeah. And you develop a relationship with it because you've seen these people all the time. Now, within the church, we sort of boil down to Sunday. It used to be Bible class for us would have been on Wednesday, right? And prayer fellowship, which would have been on Friday. We have some of those online now. So when you look at it, most of the time, most of the interaction happens on a Sunday. If we have an event, we will interact in that event. And that's it. So the question is, how do we move from there? Because we have to move from there. I should be able to, as soon as Sister Keisha walks through that door, know that something is wrong. When my coworkers walk in, I will just look at their faces and I can say, something is wrong. How is that relationship built? And do we have that relationship now? For some, I know some reach out. But is it a commitment to have that relationship? Because here, what happens? I was talking to last night. I was trying to talk to Justin Payne, and you all know Justin. Well, some of you know Justin Payne, right? And he was highlighting the same thing. He said, Kerwin, you realize that the majority of youths that we knew in our generation is no longer in the church. They are no longer in the church. And you ask the question, why? How did we lose them? How did we lose that whole, now I am 40, I'm 43, I'm 43. I'm 43, right? So I had a generation around me that you see some of them, but the majority is not there, unfortunately. And you ask the question like, how and why?
So you saying that you are aware now?
Huh?
So you are aware now?
Yeah. He highlighted it to me, and he was saying that
That's it. In your generation. Your generation.
well, for those who I knew, some are there still, but the majority is not. Yeah, the majority is not. And he knew more than me, and he is saying that he would have lost connection. Some are there. So the question is, those that aren't, why? And it boils back down to the same discussion we had at the beginning in terms of communicate that fellowship and that commitment to continue that fellowship. Because yes, so some migrated.
Yeah, look at a lot of things that would have affected you. Migration is a big one, COVID is a big one. Those are two big events that I would say not really challenge the relationship or challenge the group. We still under the effect of COVID. A lot of the youth around my age or a little bit younger, a lot of them are migrated. So they're in the church, but they're just not here in church. Other parts of the group.
Right.
But then there is a subset that's not in the church also.
Well, you know, I don't want to say you can't put total delay on the structure because what happens sometimes they have to be baptized and probably the pressure due to different reasons and they would really grounded. So enough to receive, so enough. And enough grounded enough. I just come before. So there are many reasons why they are there and you people stay home together. They pay pressure that we did with who the young lady will be. If they can't deal with that pressure, they will because they're not wrong, you know. And you peer pressure or you pressure, whatever pressure, whatever. They will. So yes, particularly many reasons why you will find some of our youth are not here or really ever.
Well, why I triggered the question, it wasn't to pass the code. It was just for us to see how our communication, I thought about the church, sometimes we treat the church as this huge collective entity, which it is, but also you are part of the church. So our one-on-one relationships, right? So why I bring it up is because communication for us cannot just very simple.
True.
That's all it boil down to. Because for me to know, to really know, I'm going to stop saying brother, for me to know Adam, I need to communicate with him outside of his Sunday. That's generally.
On the flip side of that, customers ask years ago and still asking me, why are people using the word Trinity plan? Why are we using the name to your society? Why are they using them? And it's because the foundation was laid in gold. There's so many that thought that there's no power, there's no foundation law, there's no family, it's a lot of things for that. And then, what she said, if we were supposed to church a while, we using a name, words. Like, I could use myself, for example, trying to make some muzzle. I mustn't, very well. But they will be foundation here, you need to get. When he reaches a certain age, he can make up his mind, like question up. If they go out and have a safety, and whatever destruction happens, they can't say that I did not do my best, I can't say they will do it. Personally, that's why I'm many minutes. After reach a certain age, in the church world, which I will have, and something where to see you depart. There's a because the church didn't have love, nobody wants to live on love. And that's a topic you have to do one day. Does the church have love as far as we just supposed to have? Do we show each other love? Because in the other faith, it must say, and again, the youth are there. What if they are going to do it?
Well, I use the youth. Yeah, I use the youth, really, but it was to show the exampleship of us coming.
Yes.
So what is interesting in this
right now is that we have 3 youths. And well, younger, I'll call them more mature individuals, ages 23 and under, right? And one of the questions we have to ask them, and I would like any one of them to respond, is what keeps you? Cassidy.
Okay, so hi, I'm Cassidy. But I think what keeps me, what Sister Rachel said, whereas with other religions, the relationship, I think with Christianity, the relationship amongst members are a bit stronger compared to other religions. And I only say that mainly because I look from my little observation. I think for me, what keeps me in the church is the fact that I have a relationship with the members. And if it wasn't for that relationship, I'm in church, I'm not even gonna lie, I won't be too keen on showing up every Sunday. And I know that's not right, but a relationship goes a long way. Whereas, okay, I know I'll be receiving the word of God when I arrive on a Sunday, but there's more to it. Okay, I'm getting to see JD Wady, catch up with him. Petulia and I talk on the phone during the week. I'm getting to see her face to face in the house of the Lord. So, I mean, it's definitely about Christ and getting to know his word. That's the main point. That's the main point of showing up. But the other parts play a significant role. Being able to communicate and have a relationship with the other members play a vital role in me showing up on a Sunday. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Hi, everyone. I'm Petula. I would say for all humans, we all crave connection. So most youths outside there and even in the church, they will love community. I think simply for the Church of Christ, they lack a bit in the community part because not all churches are open to welcoming youths or welcoming other people. There's still like an isolation period and keeping arm's length with everybody, which also I would like to say I have to work on. Because I'm not too keen walking up in here and giving people hug, especially if I don't know you. But I would say that, yeah.
So, Jada, you good? They are the shy ones. But just to highlight something, what I had to be really open and consistent with is even as me, when I was growing up, I don't see Christ the same way I'm seeing Christ now. And God had to work in my life for me to see Christ the way I'm seeing Christ now and his experiences. So to say this is, I believe everyone in this room sees and feels God, experiences and sees God in a different way than Christ. The way I will see Christ would not be the same way Brother Ian will see Christ. Because that is linked to, other than knowing the word, us coming and sharing the word, we try to share in our consistency to be one in the word. But our experiences also shape a different perspective because sometimes I might be going through something that Jaden hasn't gone through as yet. So the question and why I trigger this is I know what I was going through when I was younger, right? And why I asked them, Cassidy and Petula, the question exactly is because I was at that stage. I didn't used to hear what's going on up here. I used to come to church. Mommy used to bring me to church, right? So it was at that stage. And let's be honest, mommy used to bring me to church. Yeah, but we used to bring me to church. Then you reach the stage where, you see a little girl, and then that now becomes the driving force. You will have a connection with the youths and those things. And just what she's saying, you come for that community. Eventually, over time now, my relationship, because of how life progressed and because of how different things happen in growing up, the reliance now on mommy moved away. The reliance on, let's say, the community as a whole for keeping me as a Christian was there, but I had a stronger reliance now on the word because the community at points will be there in my life, but then there are some situations I had to go through on my own and allow the word and really see the word come into life in my life, open up a different layer and experience of Christ. And I want us to remember that in the same way that God was gracious for us in the way we would have reached to this point in which you know a lot, and we all still learning, but you have gone through some of the battles, is in the same grace we have to give those who are coming up. And it's okay to understand that they aren't at this level to allow the word to be the consistent point for the reasons why they're here. We have to allow them that time to grow. But you see, what is playing part in their life now is the community. When you interact and you check in with them, you know that same community, because it works in a different way. So for example, I could tell Jaden something. And Jaden will not listen to me. Will not listen to me. So what I might normally have to do is tell my sister something. She has a better relationship with him. And she will tell him, and he will be like, I never hear this before. It's just who we're coming from. And you know, the more that we do that into the church, so for example, Sister Keisha and I do this a lot, right? We do this at points. So she might tell Cassidy something. Cassidy don't listen, she don't listen. I might have to tell Cassidy something because we have a different relationship and probably how I bring it across, and she might listen. So, you know, as we tap into that community, knowing that, yes, the word is there. And sometimes is that the word is presented right here, but it's who is presented from. Yeah, let's hear what? Let's take off everything and let's be real frank. I can't connect with how it is being presented to me because I really don't have a connection with you. So it boils down to the connection too. So most of the times, I cannot connect with Ayana in terms of some things. Cannot connect. Can't. Ayana is logical. I am not. I am not. You come and tell me, Kerwin, let me go down the road and do this. I go on. She was like, what are we going to do? Do we need to pack this? I'm not that person, right? But Ian will tell her the same thing. Ian will tell her the same thing and just like, I've never heard this before. The way he explained it is so simple. It's yes and no. And she was like, but you just go around a whole bush. And he just, I said, but it's the same, we're coming back to the same result. But it's just the way he says it. And I know throughout, you know, we will have that and we have different tolerance levels also. So I'm trying to say that we all are different stages here. You have some adult people who are newborns in Christ also. So they have some attitudes that they have to relearn. But how does that sometimes happen? It does not all the time happen from up here. It happens from, and I learned this in it can't come to mind right now, but I think there's a study of connections, how people relate and how they interconnect, that whole interconnection. So how it works is that Brother Suju might come up with Brother Ian. Brother Ian's sermon last week was awesome. I am using his key thing that stood out to me was we are operating from victory, not for victory. I love that line. But for some people, they might miss that. They might miss that. So Brother Ian might come out and preach his life up here. And some might get it, some might hold on to different points. The point that you hold on to, you, because of your connection now with Petulia, could now relate that message that she would have missed. And it's solely because the message is operating differently just because it's coming from you, because she has a different connection with you. Because sometimes you're the one who calls her, and this works in a very, very interesting way. That consistency in checking in, because we saw it in scripture, we saw it in Acts, how they used to meet, we saw it in Acts, right? But that consistency in checking in does one thing I see, which is key, and which we sometimes miss. We all go through our hard times, and don't say no. It's either you're now coming out of one, you're going and get one, or you're in one right now. We all go through it. It might be different points, different circumstances, but we all going through something. When you could relate to somebody during that hard time, you form a connection that's different. I'm going to go real personal here. Very, very personal. She's not here, so I could pick on her. Kayla. So Kayla and Cassidy come like my daughters. With Cassidy, it's simple. Cassidy know everybody. Cassidy is related to everybody. Cassidy's out there. You could. Kayla, on the other hand, she assesses you very deeply. And you have to work up to that. So, whereas our relationship with Cassidy took some months, with Kayla, it took like about a year and something. Some of the biggest breakthroughs was catching her in times when she was down. And what do you do in that time when she's down? Let you catch them. You just relate Christ and your experience. So how does that look? So for example, for her, or for even some of the older ones, sometimes I can't see Moses. I'm going to break that down for you. I can't see Moses' experience. So you could tell me about that experience, but I can't relate that experience to what I'm going through now. So what happens is sometimes when we, who could relate that Moses' experience or whatever Job would have gone through, or whatever that biblical experience that we would have resonated through, and sometimes we would have lived through, when we now relate our story to someone else, they could see it now because they could touch and feel us. It simply comes down to that. So that links back to what we were speaking about yesterday, where we need to open up and bear our experiences with each other. We cannot continue without really opening up. The same way you could open up to your co-workers on work. The same way, oh yes, well, I have a lot of church hurt. Oh my gosh, I opened up this last time and I get mashing. I get talking about the pulpit and a whole host of things. I too much church hurt. But in the same way that you are growing, we have to allow and understand that even though Brother Suju is our old the brethren, there are some lessons he's still learning. And we have to allow for each other that grace, that love, and to understand that we are all growing. So, as I look to close, I want us to really rely on the community that we have. Because an example was given in terms of advice. Because you might go to the one that you know outside, but the advice might sound good, but sometimes it's not. But I know, or I should know, or at least I know, when I come here, the advice should be linked to some biblical concept. And I am operating now with a community that really cares for me. Because our example is, and I just speak it off my heart, is that the same love that I have for Jaden as my son is the same love I should have for Josiah. Same love I should have for Petulia. same laws of chastity. It should be that same level because we want understanding brother and sister and understanding how this family and this community works. It needs to be the same or even higher than our physical family. If we're not at that level, it's going to be very hard. So the commitment that I will put into Jaden should be the same commitment that I will put into Cassidy. Because at the end of the day, we all, the older ones, will be leaving. And they are the ones that have to carry on the mantle. But we don't want them to just, hear about the word. We want them that when they start to examine and when they say, okay, Brother Suju would have done this for me. They see the word in Brother Suju's life, and now he could relate that to them so that they could pass on that same experience to the other generations to come. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Always be subject to the price. You say, I want to have same experience there. I don't know my experience. I have covered many times on that. I've been in city. What is connecting me in front of church? And I said, my husband said, if you did, I stop serving God. So that is the biggest struggles of my past. I have to keep on going because I have tasted in this support. Ask, dreams. What is connecting them and keep on talking? What is connecting adults and keep on coming and keep on going and keep on carrying that mountain? What is it? What is there keeping them connected to Christ up to today? Because we can still be here spiritually Lord or minds are already patterned. Even when you come in here, your minds are already patterned from the house.
Right.
So what is keeping your girls yet is still coming, but we still have still the connection. And we can that's how should I say it? So that's a long meeting. Long meeting taken to the people. And that's true, that's true.
So this is to trigger that conversation because your experience that would have kept you
holding on to Christ. Whereas you know what it does for you.
Something happened to him. That I didn't even say I tried to fix.
So the same consistency in terms of how what God played in your life is what we need to share. And it comes back to the same class that I had last week. Because if Petula is going through something and she doesn't know that you have already went through that experience, she is now forced to go through it by herself, or now forced to go through it with advice that mightn't be in a line to the direction she has to go. But she has someone very close to her that's supposed to be in the community that she could have gotten that advice from, but she doesn't know because there's no relationship. So us bearing and opening up ourselves to, yeah, and you might get hurt. You might get hurt. I think one of the biggest things is that we're afraid to get hurt. We're afraid to get hurt, we're afraid to get rejected. It happens. It happens, and we have to allow grace because people are growing, right? But by you now sharing that experience, she now understands that, hey, I'm not in this by myself. Someone would have gone through it already, and then now she will have follow-up questions, and yeah, you have a kind of mentorship happening there. So, but if it is not shared, there's nothing. She's now faced to find a solution in a world that there are solutions that look good, but are not. Because I know the simplicity of the devil's plan is literally to have it looking very close. And that's happening now in Christianity. It looks very close. But the underlying message is different. And now she's going to go out there trying to look at that and now develop a whole theology that is away from God. And that now becomes concrete in her life, whereas she could have gotten it right here. So, as I close, again, any further questions? Any questions? Anything to say? Anyone? Nothing? Yeah.
One of the biggest problems we have with generation is that sometimes we fool listen. If you understand, they want people they are, hey, what is happening? What is losing? But we know the to that. The Bible says, and this faith, and yet we need represent to what the Bible says. So then we know what the Bible says. But I mean, it's to put it into practice. So sometimes you need to listen, and as you're right, you say, let them know. I have to show that what you are doing. So I can relate to what is happening, what you are saying. Instead of saying, it. But I'm telling you, I have been shown what you are losing of. So with my experience and what the scripture says, I do it all. So, but sometimes really, they probably still doing something like maybe then I thought they'd be back, but you're not really sleeping what I am seeing. So it is a combination of scriptures and Holy Scripture and word for the village. It's loud in my life. I will tell you as well over with what sets me to what it means to a whole scripture, you will overcome because we have to be. And I will feel it. And it's not impossible, but it means that we're really design and let them know. Yeah, because if they want to about what advice and so we need to have that vision. And there is most in this thing and we have something thinking. You know, when there that I say when my daughter was with school, I have all different things. It's very good. And when they but I used to be really I was saying not very good. I used to drop it. But you know they really want. So the what and that's very
and to be honest, some are very close and some are very open. And next we just share too. As I interact with them about this, listen to their music.
Sometimes we judge the music. But I realize that the music they listen to at that period in time, it links to what they are going through in their lives. So sometimes you will have listening rap problems. Sometimes Exactly. Sometimes they love songs, relationships. Yeah, it's clear. You see it. You see the mode that they're in. So, for example, if there's someone listening to Trinidad, and I'm like, something is definitely wrong here because I know you said you would have never listened to that type of music. So something is wrong. And that is now we started digging. Right. So, sometimes we chastise, but just sometimes just listening to observing them correctly, observing them. And it goes, so I know we focus on the youths a lot, but it goes across the border too. Spouses. 99 and 1. Just this morning I had an experience in 99 and 1. I was like, I'm gonna lay it up. Like, Anna, why do you speak to me so harsh all the time? Why do you speak to me so harsh? Shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that, because what I got in response was, you are so pampered and you don't even know how pampered you are. And she lists out a whole set of things that she do for me. And I had to go and apologize because here am I focusing on the one. And she's doing the 99 on the next side, and I can't say, I love it. I love it. So, we and all have to take stock, and that also goes in relationships, right? So, I don't want us to just solely focus on the youths, but even across the board, husband and wife, brothers and sisters, those are all communication types too, and relationships in which we have to strengthen as a church, because guess what? Society is in a mess, but we also make up society. So the question is now, time. She scores that. When she comes in, she don't smile at me, tell me the time, don't smile at me. But that's this last thing. We are part of society. The question is, how are we seen by people around us? So on Sunday, we look awesome. And we go back to Monday and Tuesday. If I was to come and ask your neighbors, what type of people these are, what will they say? Well, you see, he's a darling. But she, yeah, all lovely people. Because we are the salt, right? We are the salt. Yes, this last thing, and we closing off.
Human beings need human touch. And serving worship is not for us to do that. If you have a nursery and there's one day there is students, everybody lives on that baby. It's yes. You're going to that lower church. You're going to be first one, second one, and you see exactly necessary. Something happened along the way with children, some every child did it when they were doing. But children need human touch. If you have children who sleep and sit there among the living room and kiss them and keep them out the rest and food level, it does something to their mind's silence that was for you. It shapes how to become a God and affects your whole life every day that bridge. So something happened along the way with development. That's after those sides of the time.
Well, I just want to close with this, because not only children, many people need human touch. At this stage, just extending it fully, big people need human touch. So, for husband and wives, touch up your wife and hug up your wife and husband. More often.
Right? More often. I just straight it out there, right? Let's close.